As anyone who has created art will tell you, while subjective at times, art has objective tools. These tools can be used to help illustrate the point of the piece or enhance the work altogether. These techniques, while varying from each medium, usually play into pathos. Getting your audience to feel something, in my mind at the very least, should be one of your major goals as a creator. If a state of blandness permeates through your audience, then what are you really achieving? Well, unless that was your point, which in that case, good for you, but that's neither here nor there. We call this rhetoric, and noticeably, some tools in rhetoric are used more than others, some not even used at all in recent memory. While it does exist out there, I want to take the time today to talk about a mature device. Frankly, it doesn't seem to be used as much because of marketability, at least in the West. In the gaming world, this type of rhetoric is delegated to those type of games. For the sake of trying to preserve some chance of this video surviving, we're going to refer to this device as titillation. Essentially, this is a sense of sexual excitement or arousal. Through this definition, a shining example in modern day gaming bucks the trend and shows why this rhetoric can be so effective in telling your message. Yes, today we're going to talk about Cathrine and its remake Cathrine Full Body and how it demonstrates a fantastic use of titillation. Also, let's try to be mature on this topic. After all, it's only human nature. Or bare nature in this case. When a new medium of creativity blooms, titillation and sexual expression are close to follow most times. For example, in film we had The Bridegroom's Dilemma, which came out in 1896. In novels, there was Fanny Hill, which exposed itself in 1748. In music, well, man, that stuff goes as far back as music itself. The same can be said for video games. In the early 1980s, companies like Mystique and PlayAround were releasing titles for the Atari 2600 that acted as pornography for the system. While these titles weren't deep in their messages, heck, some of them were very offensive, it is important to note how far back titillation goes in games and how relaxed the Western environment was to these games existing. It's without saying that the sentiment has changed drastically in the West. However, in the East, titillation in games seems much less taboo. Now, there are pros and cons to this, but that's a topic for another time. But compared to the West, games of this nature are far more abundant. And with enough time to develop like other forms of art, some titles were able to craft finely tuned messages using this rhetoric device. Cathrine follows the protagonist Vincent, a man caught in an all too familiar setting of growing up from young adult to adult. His specific situation is where things start to get weird, however, as he ends up cheating on his girlfriend, Cathrine with a K, with a stranger, Cathrine with a C. In Full Body, another stranger, Cathrine with a Q, is thrown into the mix, but their story is a little more complicated. Regardless, Vincent, tormented from uncertainty and guilt, starts to have deadly nightmares involving sheep and climbing blocks. On paper, this game is a unique puzzle platformer with social sim elements. Promiscuous social sim elements. However, the game purposely uses titillation in this way to get the audience to identify with Vincent's situation, as crazy as it may be. At the core of this game, we find the struggle of a man deciding to either grow up or stay youthful or find their own path. This takes the form of different Cathrines. Cathrine with a K representing maturity, Cathrine with a C representing youthfulness, and Cathrine with a Q representing individuality. Naturally, this pairs well with Atlas's famous alignment system, but they also have their own enticements here. These enticements help drive home the point that there isn't a right answer objectively, rather it is what you, the player, decide. This, in its own strange way, is similar to the path we find ourselves going down in life eventually. And the game conveys this in a nuanced manner using titillation as the hook. As stated before, art is only as effective as the amount you can grab the audience. Cathrine uses titillation to get us on the surface, only to pull us in deeper into its voice and themes. This isn't an argument for every game to start using titillation, and to clarify, there are plenty examples of using this rhetoric for a cheap form of fan service. What developers and gamers alike need to understand is that this tool has merit to tell amazing stories and craft superb games. This industry has grown, it doesn't have to be seen as cheap or immature anymore. If people want to see this art form grow and expand, then companies and players should accept all that comes with it, including the naughty stuff. After all, sexuality is a beautiful thing, so why not express it? And if you didn't take anything from this video, just take this last point that I'm about to make. You spent close to 5 minutes with a cartoon bear who was talking about sexual arousal. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I wanted to give a quick shout out to the book that inspired this video, How to Do Things with Video Games by Ian Bogost. If you are in or are aspiring to get into game design or analysis, I believe this is a must read. If you want to see more videos like this covering rhetoric and video games, let me know in the comments. We can make this a little mini series within Bear Bites. Regardless, if you liked what you saw, make sure to leave a like on the video. Or, if you haven't already, why not consider subscribing? But until next time, Jane.